Hey, welcome to the Virtually Speaking podcast. My name is Pete Fletcher, and joining me as always is my good friend, Mr. John Nicholson. John, how you doing, sir?
Well, you know, it's been a little hot here, but I can't help but think that it's the humidity that's killing me, and I just miss that drier, more desert air. Like I can handle a dry heat, but it's this humidity with the heat. I was standing outside in a field yesterday. It was 104, and it was also like 70% humidity, and I'm like, I just need some dry heat, Pete.
Houston is a sauna. Oh my goodness. Every time I go there, I'm like, I don't even know how you live there, to be honest. It's like, it could be 75 degrees and you're sweating. But yeah, not like Vegas. Vegas is going to be a little different. And so, yeah, let's talk some Vegas, but more specifically, VMware Explore. And joining the conversation, as we usually have, are some experts on the topic, starting with our good friend, Mr. Ken Werneburg. Ken, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks, Pete. Yeah, I heard that John was looking for some dry heat, and I thought that was my invite right there.
You're bringing the dry heat, aren't you?
That's it.
Awesome. And another VMware and VMworld and VMware Explore expert is our good friend, Mr. Duncan Epping. Duncan, welcome back to the podcast.
Thanks. It's been a while, guys.
Yeah, man, it has been a while. How you been?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I guess, I don't need to be appear too often now. Now I run my own podcast called Unexplored Territory, plugging it straight away, right?
So, link below.
Yeah, exactly. Like and subscribe, you know how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, VMware Explore is upon us, and we will be reuniting again. It'll be good to see all your happy faces in person. Yeah, and one thing I'm definitely looking forward to, not Explore related, but man, is that sphere that is in Vegas. That's going to be pretty interesting. Have you guys seen that on the news?
I think it's like the next modern marvel of the world. It's bizarre. And I was in Vegas recently for a different conference, but yeah, no, this thing, it looks like aliens have invaded and dropped this, like it's got screens all the way around. I think U2 is supposed to go in residence there, but if you're coming to Vegas, just as a reminder, there is entertainment, so before, come a day early, stay a day late or something, and go see a show. There's some new venues. That, and also the new football stadium just looks evil. I'm not sure if you've seen that either.
Yeah. Vegas is definitely changing for sure. It's been a while since we've been there. Heck, Explore's been, remote for a little while with the pandemic, and then back in San Francisco, which was, we all know, we could talk for a long time on, the fun experiences that you get when you're walking to the venues in San Francisco. But why don't we stick on Explore Vegas? Really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to all the sessions there. And I wanted to talk about that. I saw Duncan recently had a post about some of his favorite sessions, and it'll be fun to sort of walk through his favorite sessions, what y'all's favorite sessions are. And then the other big part of this I want to hear is, how do you guys even look for sessions? Because the catalog is so huge. And I'm curious, I really want to know, what is your method for looking for sessions as opposed to just scanning the whole catalog? So why don't we start with you, Ken? What is your method for finding good sessions?
Well, I would honestly, as an attendee, just go through first and foremost and tag by tech level. If I am a practitioner and I'm looking for practitioner level advice, deep dive material, things like that, you go in and tag Tech 200, Tech 300, and things like that. And then I would probably try to figure out what type of information I'm looking for out of that. Breakouts are probably obviously the most populous and the most popular in terms of the overall catalog, but Meet the Experts are pretty amazing ways to pick up really detailed information. So I'd probably just start using that catalog and starting to filter, and really, really, really rigorously filter as well, and pay attention to the filters that you're applying to. We were talking about this before too, with the tagging for the levels of the content. You can be lulled into a false sense of comfort by some of the titles, I think. So if I'm a business practitioner, I'm looking for something and I haven't taken note of the tag and it's a Tech 300, I'm going to show up and hear about APIs that are going to confuse me. And likewise, if I am really interested in deep technical material and I just look at the title that says best way to learn everything there is to learn about this thing, and then I show up and they're telling me about pricing and packaging, I'm just going to be disappointed. So to me, it's about tagging through the catalog for the tech level first and foremost, and then by topic, I would say, after that.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually, because I don't think a lot of people even are aware of that, the fact that there is that, the levels. And certainly for those that may be aware, VMware Explore last year, they took a different approach, and there was definitely a lot more customer sessions, and they were definitely focusing on some of the business value. And a lot of the nerds that listen to this podcast were like, hey, we want the deep dive stuff. We want Frank Dennerman's NUMA session so we can fully understand everything there is to know about a processor down to the deepest level. So yeah, it's important to know those tags for sure. What about you, Duncan?
Well, when I created my blog post this week, I actually had a similar approach, but of course I tend to scan for particular names or particular keywords in topics as well. One of the things that of course always works well if you're a geek like us is searching for something like deep dive. Frank's session, for instance, is one of those sessions that will immediately pop up. It's going to be good. So that's one of the reasons I tend to look for those keywords. The other thing is, of course, looking for particular speakers. When I created my list, there were a couple of sessions on there which I probably wouldn't have found otherwise. Like, for instance, the session by Alan Renouf. I probably would have looked for something like Project Classic, but this year they actually seem to have renamed the session. So the only way I found it was by using Alan's name and then going through that list to see, okay, where is he? Okay, there's Alan. And then, that's one of the sessions that I probably should be attending because I know what kind of person he is and what kind of stuff he works on within VMware. So, it's going to be good. And the same applies for a lot of people, right? It's if you look for someone like, Frank Dennerman or William Lamb, John Nicholson, Pete Keeler, I know it's a certain type of content that I will get. So that's the way I typically go through it. And then, of course, there are, I always skim or just scan through the list itself. So, for instance, this year, what stood out to me is that there are a couple of really interesting sessions that are being led by customers. So it's just a single customer up on stage talking through a particular problem that they faced and talking about how they've solved that problem. That is also something that caught my interest compared to other years. It's something that stood out to me. And normally I don't go through the full list, but this year I actually went through the full list of all the sessions just to see if any of those particular type of sessions that were customer-led stood out to me, because I think those are the sessions that people tend to skip over, but they can be very, very interesting. Just to give an example, I was at a VMUG probably 4 or 5 months ago in Ireland, and there was a customer up on stage, and they were talking about a ransomware attack that they had. This was probably the best session I've seen in years. The guy is not, a regular public speaker. He's not one of those guys who's on the VMUG circuit, and he's not one of those guys that presents at Explore. But the way he actually went about explaining all of the different things they had to do in order to mitigate that problem that they had and the risk that they were facing, the amount of information that he was sharing was valuable for every single person in the room. So, those are the types of gems that you really have to, you can only find them by going through the full list, unfortunately. And unless, you look at my list, there's a few of them mentioned in there, but in general, you really need to go through that list and see if one of those sessions stands out. And in some cases, you may end up being disappointed. And in some cases, you will probably be very happy that you've attended those sessions. So, yeah, it's a mix of those. But in general, I agree with Ken. If you're a geek like us, level 300, click, and then start scanning through all of those sessions.
Expand out. It's a heat map, and you're just moving outward from your technical core. Yeah, I totally agree, Duncan. The customer sessions are really absolutely one of the most critical pieces you can get, because it's just real world problems solved by customers using technology. So if you can find an intersection there, a deep technical architecture conversation about how they solve a problem, that's perfect, right?
The other thing I'll point out on the search tab when you're looking at there is not just the level, but also session type. So you've got your breakout sessions, which are 45 minutes and are going to be kind of your meat and potatoes of what's going on here. But there also are these tutorial sessions, and these are an hour and a half. And these are going to have a lot more live demo, a lot more kind of operations or architectural type guidance. I've got one on vSAN I'm doing with Pete, but there's only a handful of these, and the registrations tend to fill up more quickly.
Yep.
There's also the expert-led hands-on lab workshop. So if you're going to be operationalizing a new product, if you can sit in a small room with a dozen or 24 friends with someone who's critical to that product can walk you through. These are some of the other kind of things. If you see the theater sessions, that means it's going to be, I think, on the show floor. So that's something that'll be a small diversion while you're going and talking to various vendors or things. But do try to, I find that while I love breakout sessions and they're, where I always like to historically spend the most of my time, having a little bit of variety in that schedule means you don't feel like you're just trapped in rooms without windows, sitting for, 8 hours a day.
Yeah, I think you did mention something that which is really important here, is that this year the sessions are going to be 45 minutes and not 60 minutes.
Right.
So even some of us presenters, like I just submitted a deck which was 55 plus slides, and then I saw an email coming in stating, hey, these are the 3 sessions that you have, and each of those sessions have an allocated time of 45 minutes. While I thought it was going to be 60 minutes. So you can imagine that I had to redo parts of my deck, trim it down here and there to make sure that we would be able to hit those 45 minutes and hopefully leave, a couple of minutes for questions as well. And that is going to be, for us as presenters, fairly difficult, I'm guessing, because normally, we're used to having 60 minutes, especially if you include a couple of demos. Then you'll have 5 or 6 minutes left for questions. So this year it's going to be a bit different, I guess, for everyone. And hopefully, most of the presenters actually took note of it. I tweeted it out yesterday. I got a whole bunch of responses from people saying, "Oh man, I didn't realize that. I didn't read the email. I just archived it like I normally do." Like, not a
Q&A will now be in the hallway, Duncan. Q&A is now in the hallway immediately following the end of the session.
That is going to happen. That is going to happen for sure. But if you go up on stage with 60 slides and you've got 45 minutes.
Yeah,
you'll, like I said on Twitter, you'll be talking like William Lamb on amphetamines. It's going to be extremely fast.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I think there's something good to be said for that too, though. I mean, it's going to be rough for the speakers who have been conditioned for 60-minute slots, no question. Yeah. But if you're a presenter and you've got 45 minutes and you're doing Tech 300, you can't get through 15 things. You can get through 2 things, at most. So it kind of forces a little bit of rigor on the speakers to go, okay, what's really, really critical out of this thing, and what do I want to impart? And if you get a good speaker who knows what they're doing, then they're going to trim that back to just the core piece and go deep on those 1 or 2 things instead of trying to cover 5 things at a middling level. So I think there's some real opportunity here as well with that 45-minute thing. I think people have to be patient. As an attendee, I would recommend people get there early, get a seat with a good view next to a loudspeaker, because there are going to be people coming in 15 minutes late and leaving 15 minutes early with some of the overlapping sessions. But hopefully, to your point, Duncan, the speakers are taking note and really kind of focused what they're talking about.
That's always so distracting, though. If someone's going to be leaving or coming in while you're presenting, that's got to be a little distracting for a presenter.
I used to take my glasses off so I couldn't focus on people, but I got LASIK, unfortunately. So,
yeah, and as you said, Ken, hopefully people take note. But I noticed a few sessions in the in the content catalog that was still called 60 minutes off, and now all of a sudden have been renamed to 45 minutes off. So I don't think everyone took note, unfortunately. And like I said, hopefully now people will pay attention, especially the speakers, and make sure that the content is also going to be prepared for 45 minutes and not 60 minutes.
Yeah. Frank Dennerman's Numa session used to be 60 minutes of Numa. John and I, we have a virtually speaking podcast session. Now we got an email. Your session has changed. It's now 45 minutes of virtually speaking.
There will be no introductions. There will be no level setting. We're just barrel rolling in. Like at the minute mark, we just start. There will be no, that's the new way.
Yeah. So, hi, I'm John and I'm Pete. Shut up. Let's get going. Yeah,
exactly.
Actually, so our session this year is on a Thursday. Usually we get them on Tuesday or whatever, and it's like in the rush of everything. But I'm curious what your thoughts are, folks, on timing of schedule. So this one for Virtually Speaking Live is 45 minutes. It's at 11:15 a.m. on Thursday. So I have like, I don't know how to feel about it. I kind of like it because as a podcast, we can actually recap the event and hear what people have, what the experience has been, and then really get, what people have learned and have, because we do like to be engaging in a panel type session like that. But then there's the thought of like, oh, is everybody gone? Do people leave early? What are your thoughts on timing?
Some of the most
sessions?
Technical deep dives I've seen have been the sessions that shut down the show. I mean, it's the SRM deep dive, I swear, was always the last session at VMworld for the longest time. I will say I'm actually looking at my Concur. I'm doing my flight bookings today. And yeah, I would recommend do not try to grab a morning flight on Thursday. You're going to miss out on good stuff.
No, I wanted to say personally, I don't have a preference, to be honest. As long as I'm not scheduled at the same time as, people like Frank, Ken Cormack, Ken William. We've seen that happening as well. We have, 3-4 people that normally have a full room scheduled at the same time. Then you know that someone is not going to have, or potentially not going to have a full room. They will probably still fill up, but it's always nice for me to be able to attend those sessions as well. The one slot that I never really appreciated was the slot at on a Wednesday when the VMware Explore party is, or the VMworld party in the past, and then at 4:30 or something like that, or 5 or something like that.
5, you overlap hall crawl. There's free beer outside.
Exactly.
So if that happens to you during scheduling, by the way, I recommend everyone go grab some beers and bring them into the session. Now in San Francisco, they probably would have frowned on this, but I promise you, Vegas does not care.
And if you do that, make sure you'll bring a beer for the speaker as well. That will be appreciated.
Yeah. My favorite.
And the person working the door too. You're just like, hey man.
Yep.
Here's one for you. Yeah, go on in. It's all good.
My favorite experience at VMware Explore around that was John and I were presenting one year. I think it was in Barcelona, and we were presenting on vSAN, and it was during the hall crawl. And so I just happened to mention at the top of the session, I was like, wow, this session's pretty packed considering it's hall crawl. And Ken Werneburg just jumps up the front row and it's like, it's hall crawl, and just jumps up and kicks the door open and leaves the session jokingly, but
he literally kicked the crossbar. That
got some good laughs. That was pretty funny. Good way to start a session.
Just setting the tone for you guys. Just setting the tone. And John, it's funny you should mention the final session, the closeout. I did that. That was literally, I was the SRM closeout of the event, and I had 2 back-to-back SRM Tech 300 level sessions. In the first one, there were literally 3 people there. I thought, okay, everyone's gone. So I just sat around in the audience with them and chatted. That's fine. It's good enough. It's sort of like a meet the experts. And then there was the final session. And I thought, okay, well, let's see who shows up for this one. It was packed, like one end to the other, standing room only for the very last session on SRM Tech 300. And I thought, okay, so I think this is what Duncan's talking about. You never know who you're up against. And it could be anybody. It could be just a topic that was of interest, and you might get nobody. So I'm the same. I've never had any particular preference about when or where. I mean, let's face it, you're there for the event. It's nice to get what you need out of it. And if that's partying, awesome. If it's a technical session, it's awesome.
So lots of topics this year. I know, I'm pretty sure, I don't have authority, but I'm pretty sure AI is going to be a big topic this year in general. Like, obviously, Chat GPT has been a very common conversation in the tech world, just AI in general. But I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of AI. And heck, Ken, I mean, we do AI stuff with vSphere, so I'm sure you've got some ideas around the fact that there will be some good AI information. What other sessions do you think are going to be popular this year, topic wise?
Well, yeah, I mean, AIML in general. When you look at all of the trends right now, VMware is no different. We're making our platform the best place to run things like large language models, inference training, whatever it happens to be. So we should have a lot of sessions, I would say, and a lot of information to share about how we can help our customers do that kind of modeling. Look out for it'll be across all the different technology avenues as well. It's not like that's a vSphere thing or an NSX thing or anything along those lines. It's pretty much every technology company and every group at every technology company is looking at that. So in terms of emerging things, those are definitely going to be cool sessions. And beyond that, I mean, there are crowd pleasers that you should always be on the lookout for. Things like Mark Temachuk and Valentin Bonzio doing their deep dive performance tutorial workshop. I think that thing's already bulging at the seams. Just pat myself on the back. I'm doing the What's New with vSphere session this year again. Things along those lines I think are are going to be popular, of course, because it is overall a slightly smaller event than you may have seen in 2018 or whatever it happens to be. So the really sort of interesting technical leading edge ones, well, keeping the ratio pretty high, but they're just fewer sessions. So that leads me to my other topic: is sign up, register for them. If they're full, put yourself on the wait list. That's the only way that we get the repeat scheduled. So,
Yep.
Overall trends, I would say, the AIML piece is going to be a big one for sure across all of the technology pieces. And I think it's interesting that there's the Spring One event as well, where we have this entirely dedicated parallel track around developers, basically. So,
yeah,
I think that's a good way to align things so we can keep our focus in Explore and the tracks that we're responsible for and talk for, independent of that to some degree, and have our deep dives on vSAN, vSphere+. So yeah, I think we've all mentioned Frank's NUMA session, Mark and Valentine's technology tutorial on performance. Those ones are going to be packed no matter what, because they provide that operational guidance that I think everyone is actually looking for. When you show up at this thing, those are the best types of things to get, is the deep dive technical guidance types of things. Really excited to see Kit's keynote as well. I think that's the technology showcase. I believe I had to write down the title. That one's going to be cool. That one, I'm really stoked about that one. Just knowing bits and pieces that are coming from that one.
Kit never disappoints for sure. Yeah. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. Looking forward to seeing what the whole story is. I know VMware's been evolving with VMware Cloud. And I know that it was funny. I was looking at the list of sponsors, and of course it's all similar sponsors, but it's like all the diamond sponsors are like all the cloud big boys, the Googles, the Amazon. I just remember back in the day when it was just all the storage were like the key diamond sponsors. And it's just kind of a point to the evolution that everything is this is definitely, it's a similar conference as it was when it was VMworld, but it definitely seems to be way more leaning towards cloud in general as a conference. Thoughts?
So I'll throw Duncan one other one here too, though. I'm quite interested in this one because this is one of my top ones that I was looking for, and that's the career advancement panel that you're on. What's that one all about? I thought that looked really, really cool.
Yeah, that's an interesting one for me as well, because I didn't submit that originally. And what I actually ended up doing, I submitted 2 sessions, one for vSAN stretch clusters and then a technical deep dive with Pete Keeler on the vSAN ESA. And I submitted a personal development / career growth session as well, which I presented a few times at the VMUG and at the VMUG Leadership Summit last year. And I actually posted it up on YouTube not too long ago. So if you're interested in my session, which is me talking about my career for the past, 2 decades or so in 45 minutes, explaining some of my learnings. But after I've submitted that, one of the track leaders actually reached out to me and they said, well, we actually have a really limited number of sessions this year that we can accept for career development. We loved your write-up. We've seen your session, even the recording. We would like to get you on this panel. So would you be able to join us on this panel just to talk about your experiences in the world of IT and probably the last 15 years at VMware, and talk us through some of your learnings? And it's going to be me and 4 others joining up on stage. I think that's 4 people on the panel and then 1 person actually moderating it, talking about what we've learned over the past 20 years, and how you can potentially use some of our learnings to progress your own career. I'm guessing it's going to be very similar to what I have posted up on YouTube, but in this particular case, it's going to be multiple people actually talking to those questions. So yeah, that one I'm also very interested in because I always enjoy doing those panels because you never know what's going to come up, not just from the moderator, but also the people sitting next to you, and then of course also the folks in the audience. That's typically the most interesting things. The types of questions that you'll get, they'll range from what type of food do you like to eat before you work out, to what is one of the most challenging things you've ever done during the last 15 years or during your career at VMware. It could be anything that comes up, and that's something that I always enjoy doing. So yeah, that panel session is for me is probably one of the highlights of the week for sure. The other thing that I do want to point out, because you just mentioned it, the session that Kit is doing, he's actually doing it with Chris Wolf. Chris Wolf did his own session last year where he actually had 4 or 5 different R&D projects that he shared. And I'm guessing that something similar is going to happen this year as well. So I'm guessing that Chris and Kit are going to be sharing, all of the stuff that we are working on in the Office of CTO and the work that Chris Wolf is now doing in the AI ML lab. So I'm guessing that one is going to be particularly interesting if you're, intrigued or interested in understanding what VMware will be working on in the upcoming years. This is stuff that is not going to be released in 12 months. It's stuff that's going to be, 18, 24, 36, or even longer out, so months out. So that's one of those sessions that, always has my interest.
Love those.
I think it's neat that you can kind of follow a thread almost through these things as well. Yep. If you go look at Kit and Chris talking, and they're going to have their themes, and let's say, it's AI, or maybe it's cloud migrations, or whatever it happens to be, or combining these things, whatever. And then you can go catch one of the other solution keynotes in one of the areas. Like for us, it's keynote 3 strategies to conquer your clouds and accelerate innovation. That's the one that us in our business group are particularly focused on right now. You'll see continuations of those themes, and it gets more and more real as you get into the breakout. So you start with sort of innovation and vision, and then you start moving more and more into the world of how we're making this stuff reality into the individual breakouts. And then you can wrap it up by going to an MTE and asking someone, so how do I make that real? And someone at the MTE will say, you don't today, but here's my email address. I'll let you know when it's real.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be a lot of great sessions to see. As I mentioned, John and I will be there not only for our session. We will be podcasting there. We'll be doing several interviews as we do. There's going to be an area in the hub. I don't know exactly where, but it's in the hub area that will be. I think we might actually be hanging out with the VMTM crew. For those of you that have been before, like the whole social area. We're going to be doing some people on the street as well. We've got our little handy dandy microphones. And so we definitely want to catch up with everybody and interview customers, partners, everybody. So we're excited about catching interviews. We're also going to be bringing some swag. So save some room in your suitcase. We will be giving out some good V-speaking teas and other good things. So be sure to find John and I over there by the in the hub area. So looking forward to that.
I need a new T-shirt because the last one, I think my son stole it, and then the hoodie that you gave me, my daughter stole it. So I don't have anything left at this stage. You know how it goes. You bring home something cool. It's like, hey, that looks cool. Yeah, fits me. Thanks. See ya.
Oh,
gone.
Yeah.
It's gone within seconds.
My wife stole most of mine, and she uses them for pajamas. So,
nice.
Definitely need to get some more for as well. So so if you're at Virtually Speaking, if you're at VMware Explore, be sure to come by and chat with us. We love chatting with the community, and we love hearing what people are interested in, what sessions they like, and how it goes for everybody. So, John, you haven't said what your top experience is going to be. What is the session that you're most looking forward to?
There's obviously, I'm looking forward to the podcast session the most, but in general, what I always like doing is also, so you can search for stuff now and you can find these great sessions, but I always like searching like the morning of, like right during the keynote, because there are sessions that will not be unlocked until things get announced and press releases hit wires.
Yeah.
And so if you are looking for kind of the what's new, the newest of new, or whatever crazy projects Ken's team is working on, some of that stuff, just keep in mind, it's not in the catalog yet. And so I'm going to have to say redacted, I guess, is my session I'm looking forward to here.
I like it. It.
And it's interesting because some of the sessions are already in the catalog. I've already spotted a few, but they probably have a different title at the moment. So they're not revealing anything in terms of, with a new product name or a new version. But I'm pretty
look
sure
for the suspicious, like what's new with the direction of this product, and it's like, you'll have these suspiciously vague descriptions for Tech 300s.
Yeah.
Saving you money while making things more efficient with stuff.
I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing all you guys. It's gonna be another good year. I'm so glad we're not doing it remotely, and I'm definitely looking forward to reuniting with people. It's probably one of the highlights of the event. Not only learning what's new with VMware, not only getting career advice and connecting and studying and hands-on labs, but also just the social aspect of it, seeing everybody again and reconnecting. So it's a big world, but it's a small community, and it's one I'm glad that we're all in. So gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on this VMware Explore preview. We will be listing all of everybody's favorite sessions on the show notes of this podcast, and we look forward to seeing you there. Anything else before we go, John?
No, let's land this plane.
All right. Duncan, Ken, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at Explore.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you guys.